I wanted to set up a dance CCA in the school that I was in. And girls who were in the dance CCA were so happy that we had a dance CCA because the school hadn't had one in a long, long time. We went for SYF and we didn't win. We didn't get an award like the gold or silver, right? But we got a commendation. The school decided because we didn't get an award, they were going to shut the CCA down. Even though we had like 15 to 20 participants in primary 4, 5, and 6. And that's a good size to have for a CCA, right? What happened to doing something just for the love of it? It's not encouraged.
Hi, I'm Aarathi Arumugam from EveryChild.SG. And today I'm being joined by not one, but 3 teachers. I am Lennie Chua, principal at Impact Circle Education. Eugene, an education leadership and change management professional who's currently navigating a career transition. And Seraphine, Chia, an ex-educator who's now a style coach with 20 years of experience in education, coaching, and training. And they're here to talk about their love of teaching. Thank you very much for joining me.
Who decides that prestige and power and money are the ultimate successes in life? How many people you know are rich and unhappy? Right? What is the objective of at the end of the Singapore education system? Do you want people who are successful but perhaps unhappy, perhaps stressed? Or do you want people who say, look, I'm perfect, I have found meaning in my life, I have purpose, I enjoy what I do, I make a good living, I am not financially insecure, I'm not worried to pay my next check. Is that what we want to tell the kids? I hope that's what we're doing. In schools, we have things like career and ECG, education and career guidance. So these are programs that put in to educate the kids. There are different paths, explore your own interests. In secondary school, we had ECG counselors that work with students.
Which previously we didn't have that.
Good, didn't, yeah.
But that's in secondary schools, right?
ECG at primary 6, and then in secondary school, you have like full-time counselors in the schools. These are programs. Programs are things you do, but programs must work within a supportive context. Imagine if I want to be an artist, but my parents say, no, artists are starving people. Like, where is your next paycheck going to come from? How are you going to buy your own house?
This is exactly what my mom told me. Yeah. But we talk about that later.
Right? So, for a child, like 13, 14, 16 years old, to say that, no, I'm doing this regardless, it takes either like supreme maturity or extreme courage in the current context.
Right? Let's take that. Let's take the artist, for example. Sure, the child can say that. The reason the parents say don't do arts is because the government doesn't put money in the arts.
Yeah.
Right? This is why we are told to be a lawyer, doctor, teacher, whatever, because these are safe professions. They are salaried professions. Are they recession proof to a certain extent? Yes. So, those are the indications, right? And then you get, for example, COVID, when artists would basically say, y'all are not necessary, not necessary professions. So
essential.
Not essential, that's it, non-essential. So this is again, it is what government policy and country policy tells the people.
Yeah.
And the reality is, passion alone is not going to feed you and put food on the tables, right? But at the same time, if you are pursuing the well-earning and good money-making careers, when it comes to a recession or it comes to COVID, it's going to allow you to stock up financial resources for a rainy day. Being an artist, an actor, a performer, you aren't always sure when your next paycheck is going to come in. And maybe parents are discouraging that because they also don't want their children to be a financial burden on them. Right? So there could be a whole host of reasons why people are pushing these careers. But at the end of the day, we also hear people in their 30s and 40s being really unhappy, burnt out because they've been pursuing these careers for the wrong reasons and then leaving to become artists, restaurateurs, right?
Style coach.
Style coach, yes, absolutely. Because we want to pursue our passion. We've come to realize that the monetary rewards aren't everything. Because if my health is affected, my mental wellness is affected, my emotional wellness is affected, why am I pursuing just the money?
Yeah, so I don't know whether it's just pursuing those professions, but more the this quest for being excellent all the time, and right, rather than learning for the sake of learning,
Yes.
progressing for the
Yes.
sake of progressing, and figuring out as you go along until you have that capacity of having, like you said, trying different things, figuring out what you like, and then you make that decision.
So can I give you an example of when I was in school?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I remember, because I had a dance background, I wanted to set up a dance CCA in the school that I was in. And the girls who were in the dance CCA were so happy that we had a dance CCA because the school hadn't had one in a long, long time. We went for SYF and we didn't win. We only got, we didn't get an award like the gold or silver, right? But we got a commendation. The school decided because we didn't get an award, they were going to shut the CCA down. Even though we had like 15 to 20 participants in primary 4, 5, and 6. And that's a good size to have for a CCA, right? What happened to doing something just for the love of it? It's not encouraged.
Okay, I feel you because I'm also in the arts. Okay, however, I do believe that a lot of these things that didn't work out quite in the way they should, it's not really because of solely a systems problem or primarily a systems problem. It's because of an individual issue. Right? There's an individual school leader, right, that made the decision not to support it, right? Rather than the system itself is against it. Because if you look at the system itself, even at the primary school level, officially, we are even allowed to have two schools combined together and form a single CCA.
That's right.
In theory. But of course, in practical, does it happen? It does not happen. So I guess for me, I'm a little bit pragmatic because I know that I'm not in a position where I can really change the system. And I don't think that is realistic to, right? I mean, I can speak up. I don't mind speaking up, but can I really change the system? Question mark, right? But I only can change whatever is in my capacity, in my sphere of influence. And that's what I've tried to do, to kind of like find success in spite of the system, rather than just, oh, is this that. Yeah. So I mean, I guess that's my take.
Okay, so I'm going to draw it back here. We talk about wanting to provide a good education. And we talk about every school being a good school. What's good enough? And have we benchmarked this good enough to what schools, what students needs and want?
What's good enough, is it?
Yeah, what's good enough? When you say every school is a good school, what does that mean? What's good in us? Right?
The reality is I would say our education system is good. There are flaws. Every system is flawed, but there are definitely better schools. So why are these schools getting better resources? Why is their system not being replicated in other schools? Is it because of funding? Is it because of support from external parties? Because depending also on the career support group, the community, the area that they're in, doesn't that affect the quality of the education? Where teachers are deployed? Because you're going to have a wide range of teachers coming out of NIE, right? So I would like to believe that the system doesn't send the better teachers only to the better schools, right? But at the same time, if a teacher who isn't performing up to a certain level and is given time to improve but doesn't improve, then doesn't that good school try to push that teacher out through grading, through redeployment, through encouraging you to go somewhere else?
Like any profession, lah.
Like any profession,
Yeah.
right? You don't get fired, but there's the door. Please, you're not performing, right? Maybe it would be better for you to go somewhere else where your skills are better, right? So, and we frame it nicely. So,
Yeah. So can we unpack what it means when you say every school a good school? What does that mean?
Everybody's definition of good is different. So by saying this is like a motherhood statement, right? So you're free to interpret whatever you want. So many parents say, "Oh, every school is a good school," but some are gooder than others.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from the resource standpoint, the resource allocation from MOE to schools is a fair one, right? It's based on the population of students, the deployment of teachers, based on what you need. But this is the numbers game, right? On my way to the recording studio, we passed by Raffles Institution, right? The ground was huge. It's huge. And thinking to the secondary schools around my place. I'm thinking of perhaps the alumni associations. Some are extremely wealthy and influential ones, others not so. Are these things that MOE can control? I don't know. I don't think so. Does MOE really want to deal with the alumni associations? I don't know. I don't think so. But it has become let's think about the system over the years, right? When Singapore started with nothing, every school is equal. Through generations and decades of accumulated, and I think the virtuous cycles, some schools accumulate advantages well beyond others, right? And as a result, this virtuous cycle perpetuates. Some schools are able to attract the children of their alumni, which creates future generations of them.
Yeah, and so then that disparity
Gets wider
and wider.
That's right.
Yes.
And so, like you talk about, does MOE really want to deal with that, right? No, but MOE does need to then deal with making this.
Yeah.
Right? This, you can't change this because whatever it is, it's a network. It builds it.
Yeah.
It's something that
And it has
happens
its
over time.
benefits, right?
Absolutely. And alumni and past students contribute a lot to it, right? Everything from the hard work to study, whatever. You want to talk about all of that. So if that then is the level, then shouldn't that go? Rather than stack ranking and all of that kind of stuff. Instead of so look at the resourcing rather than the
But
And if the schools that are supported by alumni are so rich in funding, can the funding that MOE sets aside to that be redeployed?
Can I just when you use your point first?
Or can then the schools look at some form of buddy system to help
Which they are.
other schools that need help? Can the alumni not just grow the school, but the neighborhood, the wider society, and not just keep it in the family, so to speak?
Which they are.
Yes.
Right. I think that in recent years, they are encouraging schools to work across like the strict school boundaries. They collaborate by the joint CCAs and so on. But Lennie, he was telling me more.
actually, behind the scenes, the way the government is doing their resourcing is changing. Okay, let me give an example. Okay, so previously, they set up like a gifted education program. That was long ago. And then, because of this gifted education program, these GP kids, of which I am one, a beneficiary, they actually get the benefit of having 22 students in the classroom, which is very good for the development of their skills and stuff like that. So that was in the past. And then, through the years, because of
So that's because of
Yep,
smaller
yes.
class sizes, right?
yes, that's partially because of that. Of course, they really train the teachers about special case. So, but through the years, because of change of political climate, this thing has changed. So in recent years, they have kind of like lowered down the emphasis on the GEP side, on the higher achievers. Now they have actually put in more resources for the NT kids, right? And then they make it such that NT kids have a lower classes as well, right? And I mean, because I heard behind the scenes, budgeting wise, the top schools like Raffles, they have cut their funding like what you have mentioned, to the extent where they have to close whole departments, right? So behind the scenes, that's what we know lah. We know what's happening. So again, things are happening at a macro level, but of course, how it affects individual schools, it really depends on how the particular leadership of the school adapts to it. Yeah.
So does that mean then the policies are good, but there is a reluctance with school management to follow these policies for personal reasons,
think-
personal
think-
agenda?
No, because at the highest level, the politicians, they have to respond to the wishes of the people. If they don't respond, one day things have to change, right? So they are trying to respond, but how much they can do, have they done enough? I mean, I don't know lah. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, but I do believe that the school leadership level is a little bit mixed. Like I had the benefit of whichever posting I went to, I had really good school leaders. Okay, but my wife, who was also a teacher, she had a really bad school leader, and because of that, she had to be ported out because of medical leave, because of depression, right? As a PT. Okay, so it's really luck to some extent. Yeah.
Yeah, but just to add on to the point of the resourcing, right? Even at primary school level, a lot more emphasis is actually put on, I think, struggling learners. So things like learning support, things like dyslexia remediation, these are there. I think what is not recognized is perhaps the kind of resourcing that we need for the struggling learners. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, right?
And what's a percent?
For gifted education kid needs, gifted education and learning support kids are kids with special educational needs.
Yes.
They need different kind of resources.
Exactly.
So I do not begrudge at GB kids for having specialist teachers. I do not begrudge them for having small class sizes because they need that, right? But the kind of strugglers, for example, kids with dyslexia, kids with dyscalculia, these kids that come to primary school without knowing the alphabet, to get them up to, I think, the baseline, I think that kind of resourcing that you need, perhaps we need more of it. Yeah, we need more of that. And that's the struggle, I think, with the public system, right? Because the budget of MOE is contingent on the budget of the rest of the country. Many years, MOE has always been number 2, always behind defense, but not in recent years because things are changing. Health has become more, as we approach a super age society, the health budget gets bigger. Education needs do not change. We are now expected to do more with less. How do we do that? How do we rally the support of parents, getting support from community, while being mindful that, I mean, if you read the papers and they are correct, right? There's a 1.4 billion budget out there for tuition.
1.9.
There is money there. People are willing to put their money there to supplement the education system for whatever shortcomings that they perceive. Can we rally that? How do we rally that? That is a big question. Yeah.
Brilliant. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, right? The tuition that we pay and this dream, okay? Because we're seeing that teachers join the service for a couple of years, they burn out, they decide that actually I wanted to teach, I'm not doing teaching, I'm actually doing more administration. There was a recent survey where they did all of that. what do you think? Let's talk about a bit about that, right? How has being a teacher changed? And what's the most striking differences you're seeing? Like, why are we losing teachers so quickly? You Lennie.
No, because you're talking about survey, and when I saw the survey,
No,
it was very strange.
it is
Like
very
the hours
strange.
didn't add up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Singapore teachers, they reported that they are not spending enough time teaching, but the rest of the time,
They're missing hours.
where's the hours going? I mean, what are they doing?
It was a very strange.
I don't know.
So
Very
when I
strange.
was a teacher in the mid 2000s, we didn't have WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Okay, every communication was via email, and then you had some semblance of balance because nothing required urgent response. Now that parents have the teachers on WhatsApp and you've got all these WhatsApp groups, they are expected to respond immediately
And any time of
at
the day.
whatever time, right? That's illogical to me. No job, or there are very few jobs that require that kind of attention. It isn't a life or death situation, right? Why did parents expect the teachers to remind students in the WhatsApp groups of what homework is?
I don't know if parents expect that. I don't know how the parents expect that. So if the school allows the teachers to WhatsApp their kids, the children that they're teaching, then this is just, I think, a natural progression. Unfortunately.
So
I don't know whether it's the parents that are feeding this.
Okay,
it's really a chicken and egg
yeah.
situation.
So the thing is, what happened to the days of you've got your student handbook, you write your homework down, right? And even if you've got like Google Classroom, the notice is in Google Classroom, all your deadlines are there. Why is there a need to send an additional, and why are children using these WhatsApp groups as secretarial services?
But the kind of strugglers, for example, kids with dyslexia, the kids with dyscalculia, these kids that come to primary school without knowing the alphabet,
Yeah.
to get them up to, I think, the baseline, I think that kind of resourcing that you need, perhaps we need more of it. There's a 1.4 billion budget out there for tuition. There is money there. People are willing to put their money there to supplement the education system for whatever shortcomings that they perceive. Can we rally that? How do we rally that? That is a big question.
When I saw the survey,
No.
it was very strange. Singapore teachers, they reported that they are not spending enough time teaching, but the rest of the time,
They're missing hours.
where's the hours going? I mean, what are they doing? I don't know.
If you find these conversations valuable, please like the video, subscribe, and follow us so you may never miss an episode. So grab a copy and let's talk about what matters.